welcome to our webinar on basic versus advanced personalization. The subject itself is nothing new. However, what's surprising is that not many businesses are doing it right in the eyes of the consumers. Twilio reported in their recent state of the personalization report that while 85% of businesses believe they're offering personalized experiences, only 60% of consumers seem to think that is the case. I'm Arby. I am the Senior Campaign and Product Marketing Manager at MoEngage. I have 9 years of experience in B2C digital marketing and 6 years of experience in B2B product marketing. So throughout my experience, I have seen the benefits of employing advanced personalization as well as implications when not done right. I am joined by our VP of Sales, Rob. Rob, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Arby. My name's Rob Babiri. I'm the Vice President here at MoEngage. Really excited and happy to join you. I've been in the industry myself for nearly 18 years. And like many of you, in fact, all of you, have seen and experienced that change in personalization from the consumer aspect as well. So I'm really looking forward to sharing some insight with you as we go through today.
Okay. So in our discussion today, we will cover why advanced personalization, real life client success story. We'll also talk about the recent email benchmarks report. We did analyze over 3.7 billion emails across retail, financial services, travel and hospitality, lifestyle, media, and entertainment. And there are some really useful insights to know, specifically for the said industries, leveraging email as the main channel of engagement. We'll also talk about AI in personalization, specifically its role and impact on businesses. And of course, best practices. We will wrap it up with some best practices that some of our clients have adopted when it comes to using AI in personalization. Okay, Rob.
And Arby, if I kick off with just looking at the importance of personalization, I don't think anyone listening will be unaware of how imperative and how important and how much of a role personalization plays in today's markets. If you're a marketer, whether you're focused on B2C or B2B, we know that personalization has to be a key aspect. These trends are increased for many reasons. So first and foremost, our consumers now expect it, right? There's been a huge growth in the number of channels that were available to us as marketers to reach our customers on. There's a lot of content that is out there trying to capture people's attentions. So our consumers now expect and in fact demand that their experience is personalized when they're touched with a brand. And we know that actually what that promotes is things like brand loyalty. For those in the product side of sales and life cycle area, we can see and report these figures from a financial aspect. So we see increases in lifetime value, we see increases in average order value, and above and beyond, we see increases in expenditure in brand loyalty for those brands that are adopting personalization as a strategy.
Thank you, Rob. And what you can see here as well from the slide, we've also shared some of the results from our personalization pulse check report, wherein, just to add on to what Rob said, 81% of consumers prefer personalized communications. I think that's nothing new, and that's also not surprising. And in fact, 40% of revenue from fast-growing businesses is derived from using personalization.
What's equally interesting here as well, if we look at reports from people like Adweek, it's not just on the retention side of things that personalization is important. So we can see things like the cost of acquiring a customer, which is a big priority on the CMOs and marketing directors' budgets, can be reduced by up to 50% based upon personalization within the acquisition strategy as well as that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because later on, one of the success stories that we are going to be sharing is round about that. It's a clever way of really reducing that customer acquisition cost by just leveraging the customer data that they already have.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing that gets often overlooked, right? We capture as marketers all this rich data on our audience. There is an ability to apply that and learn from that when we're acquiring new customers. And a lot of businesses now that I'm speaking to are trying to adopt kind of a lookalike strategy in order to acquire more of their best performing customers, whatever that may look like. So personalization as a strategy, just as a reminder, is something that sits right across that customer journey and life cycle, right from awareness all the way through to the point of kind of re-engagement for those customers that start to churn.
before we, I guess, delve deeper into this, let's maybe define what we mean by advanced personalization, Rob, in the context of this discussion, of course.
Absolutely. So I'm fortunate enough to look, and if we jump to the next slide,
Mhm.
I'm fortunate enough to look at or get to meet many marketers across different industry sectors. So whether it's in the kind of retail or e-commerce space, whether it's banking, financial services and insurance, all through to travel and hospitality and airlines. What we understand, what we know is that if we want to capture the attention and improve and enhance overall experience, personalization is key. So we can see here on the left-hand side that we've got examples of trying to complete and complement or upsell services that are relevant to what the customer is showing interest in. And these are interests that can be personalized based on their browsing behavior. It can be previous booking or purchasing behavior, their interactions with your brand across the many facets and fascias that you have and the many channels that are available to you. If we can make it easy for them to get access to services or products that will complete, whether it's the look or the output or the outcome that they're looking for, we know that statistically, as well as the enhanced experience being increased, it then adds to the things that we mentioned before, things like average order value, customer lifetime value, and above all, revenue, which is predominantly what we as
Yeah.
marketers are focused on.
Yeah. And what you see here are really examples that we pulled out from well-known brands, right, on how they are using advanced personalization. So you've got the first one is Amazon, and we know how Amazon's just very, very good at hyper-personalizing website and their offerings. To achieve this, they track obviously customer shopping and behavioral activity to really understand the consumer's buying habits. And then from that, they use that data to curate recommendations for content and products that the user is far more likely to engage with and also buy.
And as you mentioned, like Amazon were an early adopter and they have such a vast amount of data. What they're doing really well is feeding that data and learning from customers' interactions to provide better experience, not only on a one-to-one level, which is so equally important, but also through that life cycle and the stages to make sure that they attract customers, they convert them, and that they keep them spending. So it's a great
Yeah,
example there.
yeah.
In the second example that we can see here, I think it also highlights the importance of something else. So we talk a lot about personalization to the benefit of the consumer, and the consumer should always be at the forefront of the mind. But over the last few years, especially since the pandemic, we know that CMOs, marketing directors, and marketeers are being asked to do more with less. If we look at the example here, what personalization allows us to do is make sure that we're not over or under investing into specific people and specific consumers. So if we take as an example here, we've got a 25% offer on the next 5 orders. If we're using a personalization strategy behind that, like many of our customers here at MoEngage, what they can start to understand is things like the recency, frequency, and monetary value of a consumer. Is that consumer worth the investment of 25% off? Is that consumer showing behaviors or a track record or a history that we can expect to get those 5 orders? If not, let's not over incentivize them. What we need to do is be able to be thinking about a personalization strategy, meeting the customer and delivering their expectations, but also helping us in marketers be more efficient with our marketing budgets.
Just to add to your point, I think one thing that is key here is about timing. So they really leverage the use of AI and machine learning to really predict when to send specific offers to specific people, in some cases one-to-one, which is an advanced way of personalizing their communications.
It's another great point, Avi. And what's happened in kind of the evolution of personalization, if we go back to, and I mentioned it earlier, the original or the foundation of it was personalization on demographics. You know, was it a male or was it a female? What was the age group? That sort of thing. What was the location? What we've got here is not only the advancement and move forward to content and promotions, but we've got the contextualization of that. Which channel is it being pushed on and what time? So I
Mhm.
imagine, and I experienced this, and I'm sure many of us use Uber here. And it's the same with the food apps as well, the Deliveroos and the Just Eats of this world. What I start to get is habitual patterns that I display kind of shown back to me, where you'll get a notification at a time. It may be on a Tuesday evening as I'm leaving work at kind of 5:30 saying, hey, this is the time that we've seen that you normally would look to get an Uber to get yourself out of London. That contextual delivery, time and right place.
Mhm. Absolutely. Just to summarize everything that we talked about, the importance of personalization and the benefits that businesses can get out of it, the increase in average order value, the customer lifetime value, and then ultimately revenue. But you're also really ultimately enhancing customer experience by putting what they want in front of them at the time that they want or need them. You're saving time and improving convenience. And I guess if you continue to do this, you're also in the process of turning them into brand advocates or brand ambassadors. And you know what they can do. They refer you to their friends, to their family. That's how you acquire new quality customers for your business.
Now, what we'll do is let's have a look at some real life examples from some of our customers.
So one of our clients, Fastic, the fastest growing intermittent app in the US and Germany with over 50 million downloads, reduce their new customer acquisition cost dramatically by using advanced personalization, specifically with their disengaged users. What's really clever here is that they turned their focus on existing customers who are dormant. So, nevertheless, they have data to use to engage in a way that compels them to come back.
And also, Arby, I think they used a great strategy here because, as we know, it's statistically around 2 times less costly to acquire or renew an existing customer than it is to go out and acquire a brand new, fresh customer. So what they did is they used and targeted their owned media channels, which are the most cost-effective ones. So things like trying to re-engage through the app, through channels like email, through SMS, etc., to drive that resubscription re-engagement. Perhaps what's more impressive, by learning the behavior of their users previously, they were able to get those freemium users, the people that started off that perhaps weren't paying a subscription, to go on to subscribe at a conversion rate of over 30%. And this is really where we mentioned earlier about reducing that cost of acquisition by looking at the existing and the disengaged users. They're reducing it further by using the lower cost channels that are available to them and avoiding things like the heavy PPC, the SEO, and the social ads that you really have much lower and less control of. But they're using content, they're using channels, and they're using that contextual call to action that we mentioned earlier to really personalize that experience and drive those conversions. As like many of us in the sales and marketing field, we have to travel frequently. So Travelodge have been a long-standing customer of ours. As you may know, they own many establishments up and down the UK. They also recently won an award at the DMA Awards, so we'll come to that shortly. But what was really interesting around Travelodge here is that they wanted to use personalization in a slightly different way. And this was around kind of promoting loyalty and actually specifically making travelers' experience much more refined. So we all know that the travel experience can be full of anxiety. It can be full of concerns. What Travelodge wanted to do is build a journey that went right from that pre-booking phase all the way through booking to the departure date, making sure that they could cross and upsell services during their stay, and then gaining feedback to make sure that there was an end-to-end personalized experience tailored to each individual receiving that.
That's right. And what they've done, Rob, is that they use the primary information about the Travelodge customer, like the name, the date of birth, city or location of their booking, type of traveler, stay type, new versus returning guests, and build out recommendations based on this primary persona information and automate the engagement opportunities throughout individual customer journey.
Yeah, I think that the key thing here is the kind of the use of data, right? So there's a stat here at the bottom right where we're talking about the uptake in adding breakfast to the booking. There are two kind of angles to this. First and foremost, I think it detracts and delays, improves the experience upon check-in, right? Sometimes people check in and they want to get to their room as quickly as possible, not necessarily be asked a series of questions. Secondly, by them implementing it in kind of a customer journey in the digital aspect, besides that, where again we're giving away profit or margin. It's about putting the suggestion up front at the right time. It allows us to make sure that we're not overspending or over incentivizing. And like we mentioned, it also makes sure that the customer experience is a much more seamless and enjoyable one.
And it doesn't come across like they are upselling. It's a very light upsell, but from a consumer point of view, it doesn't come across as if they are trying to, make additional money out of them because it is embedded in the flow. It is part of the journey. It becomes more natural to suggest other services throughout their stay.
You can also see that by them leveraging kind of this life cycle automation on this pre-booking journey, once you've made a booking, people are far more susceptible to engage with that brand. And you can see for themselves their open rates and click-through rates. 72% of an open rate speak for themselves, with an 87% clicking through on that. It's a real prime opportunity that they've taken advantage of. And again, when we bring in and leverage in AI, what we can start to do is make sure that that message, and let's use the breakfast example upsell as an example here, to make sure that that message is delivered on the right channel and that it's
Mhm.
also delivered at the right time for that individual. So, as mentioned earlier, Travelodge recently won the DMA award for marketing automation. It was a gold award that they won, and this was around this case study that we're looking at today. I'm sure it's a case study that can be inspiring to many others, whether it's in the travel and hospitality or other sectors as well.
If you guys want to find out about the case study, we do have it available on our website under the customer success storage.
I think that's probably a good segue, RB, and to kind of introduce and talk about the report that we recently did. So
Yeah.
this is our email benchmark reports. Now, we know that email is one of the many channels that are available to us, but it's a foundation of many people's strategies and certainly one of the most cost-effective and highest return on investment channels. For this report itself, we analyzed a huge amount of sendings, so 3.7 billion emails. We looked at not just a single industry, but we looked broad and far, right across from travel, banking, financial services, insurance, through to retail and e-commerce and many others. We took a segment of a cross-section of the industry sizes as well. So we focused on B2C, but these are information and stats that are being presented from both small, medium, and large enterprises as well. You'll find within it, the traditional KPIs that are associated to marketing. So we looked at things like conversion rates, open rates, click-through rates, etc.
Here, all of the emails here have some levels of personalization. So we're going to be looking at the basic and advanced and then compare to see which has the most impact. And of course, the results were not surprising. And this one is just on email alone.
Yeah, I think a bit of a spoiler alert there that it's no surprise that personalization played a key part into these benchmarks. But actually, more than 80%, I think close to 90%, 87 in fact, and we're still using basic personalization. So we know
That's
we've got the opportunity, and we're talking about the advancements in personalization and what's there. But still, many people are still using basic demographic, first name, last name type personalization.
when we talked about basic versus advanced personalization, basic literally just the use of name within the communication itself. Whereas advanced personalization, we're talking about different attributes here from name to behavior to demographics, to, preferences, but also adding another layer, it being a journey-based type of personalization, part of the life cycle of the customer, and then the use of AI predictions, wherein we talked about the best time to send, the best channel to use, and also the best content to add to the communication.
Advances and results that we can see. So not only is it in and around the open rate, which is the first opportunity and the engagement that we're looking for, but when we drill right through that kind of purchasing funnel, you can see that it has huge impacts to things like the conversion rate. So there is a 109% increase in conversions when advanced personalization tactics are deployed within the email channel itself. Financial services, it's one of the more traditional industries when we come to personalization and marketing. There are lots of rules and regulations that have to be followed as well. So we have to be careful about what we can and can't include. But what was paramount within the survey is that we started to see that every metric was increased and improved upon when we started to introduce, or when customers started to introduce that advanced personalization. So whether this be from kind of changing the shift and making people feel like they were known and understood, whether it was around contextual offers or information around services that they procured, we started to see that the open rates, the click-through rates, and the conversions, and if you look at conversion rates here, it's an even significant improvement on the
Yeah.
average. We go from
Yeah.
1.39% conversion rate with just basic segmentation and personalization through to 4.1%. This is vast. So we're almost double what the average is across all industries, 195% increase in conversion rates by adopting an advanced personalization strategy. So if we look at another industry, media, where it's a little bit more innovative, they have a lot more space to use content and context as well for personalization. It's no surprise that it's not only the initial open rate on a channel like email that changes, but there's also a huge increase in terms of that click-through rate that follows on not only on the initial email, but carries on through that journey onto the website where we start to see huge increases in conversion. So 40%. And if we think about streaming services like our customer SoundCloud as an example, we have a rich history and heritage of data to understand what their interests are, what they've been doing before. Those that are streaming television like SVT and DR, we can start to understand what genres of shows are capturing a person's attention and start to feed them information that's relevant. And again, with the advances in things like machine learning and AI, we can use that as wisdom of the crowd to attract new users, acquire customers that look and are expected to perform like our best customers, as well as retain and engage our existing customers and get the highest return and deliver the best experience for them.
Yep. And here also, Rob, in this result, the data tells one story, open rates. So with more than twice as much engagement, personalization delivers drastically more eyes on your message, plus marginal gains to clicks and conversions, as you mentioned. What entertains us is largely personal, so it's no surprise that demonstrating understanding of consumers through personalization leads to better open rates.
Yeah, and there's a real change in the way in which email is used and consumed by our customers and our consumers now. So there's a personalization opportunity in the basics, of course, of subject line. And like you mentioned there, Arby, like our interests are different. So if we take news and media, perhaps let's pretend that I'm interested in politics. You yourself might be interested in current affairs and world media. If we can personalize that subject line and also use the pre-headers to make sure that there is a message to engagers to click through on that personalized one-to-one level, taking into account our interests, taking into account our previous browsing and consumption, then there's a higher chance of statistically opening those emails, which is why we start to see that 52% increase.
We have analyzed email data for more industries like retail, travel, and lifestyle. And the conclusion in all industries have been the same. Advanced always works better than basic. So if you do want to read details of the report, please scan the QR code and you should receive an email with the copy of the report.
So AI and personalization, the hottest topic and the newest topic, everybody seems to be talking about AI, and there's no surprise. So if we look at this, we can see that business leaders know, 73% of them are saying that it's fundamentally going to play and reshape the personalization strategies in the future. Where we've seen the application already is things like send time optimization, where the system itself is figuring out at a one-to-one level when to send a message to an individual and at what time. Moving forward, the advancements are looking at taking more of an AI approach to execution and content as well, where the system will not only provide insights. If we think back around machine learning and business intelligence, which were key topics maybe 5, 6 years ago, this is where the reliance was on the marketer to actually know what to look for, go into some form of data, mine that data, and hopefully, if they've got the right tooling, be able to dashboard some intelligence around it to make a decision. What a lot of the marketers that I'm talking to now are hoping that AI and personalization will take it that one step further, where not only will machine learning be able to find patterns, but artificial intelligence will be able to flag these up, present them to the marketer, show them things like what the expected returns are, and then in the ideal world, actually go on to execute and distribute that campaign to its end users.
We're going to talk about best practices. The first one is around predictive and proactive personalization, the use of machine learning algorithms that can make data-driven predictions about a user's preference and behavior.
We all know that if we can prevent something happening, that it's better than having to cure it. And again, I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the talk track, one of the common strategies used in engagement and re-engagement of customers is the use of incentive and discounts. If we can start to predict behaviors based upon what other consumers do and apply that to a model of all our consumers, we can perhaps reach out to a customer that's showing signs of defection, as an example, before they get to that point. That reduces the need to actually incentivize them and spend money to get them back.
Yeah,
Also, it shows compassion for our customers and that we have a general interest, which promotes brand loyalty. And like we mentioned at the top, really starts to impact things on lifetime customer value. It also creates brand advocates. So prevention here is definitely better than the cure. And this is where predictive tactics such as machine learning and AI really should be and can be deployed.
And just to add to that, predictive personalization can also be used to improve operational efficiency. So you can automate tasks such as content curation, campaign optimization, and customer engagement. So this allows businesses to focus really the resources on strategic initiatives and drive better results across all aspects of their operations.
Absolutely. And the next phase that we're looking at is kind of automation, testing, and optimization. And it reminds me of a customer that I worked with previously within the car industry sector, it's actually media giving out information about it. They wanted to run a competition. And as part of that, they were testing an incentive where if you responded to a form of theirs or a questionnaire, they would return with £100 voucher for you. The actual uptake of that was really not very good. It was nowhere near what they expected. Through testing, what they realized is if they switched the terminology, they kept the value the same, so still £100, but they made it based upon a £100 fuel voucher. So this is something that the cost of fuel was rising at the time. Their open rates and their click-through rates nearly doubled instantly. So you've got to test the messages as well. Automation is definitely key. It helps us save time, but you need to make sure that we're implementing review points. We need to make sure that we can provide and have an insight into things like AI to make sure that we're benchmarking the difference between more manual personalization strategies as well, to make sure that they are actually yielding and delivering the optimum results.
And the last one, but not the least, of course, is to adopt an omnichannel approach.
And in the study that we've looked at, we've been talking heavily on this study about email, but as we know contextually, email forms part of a 2025 omnichannel strategy. In 2025, I think we all know that it's imperative to adopt an omnichannel strategy. I mentioned I've been in the business for some years, and my initial kind of entrance into this was looking at email as a single channel. It's great for me, and I enjoy still talking about email like we've looked at the benchmark report because it's one of the foundational channels. But we went through the nuances and the progression to talking about multi-channel. We're now talking about omnichannel, which is around customer centricity. It's about putting the customer at the center of your channels. And no matter how good your personalization strategy is, if it's not teamed with a customer-centric outreach and omnichannel approach, then you're still leaving opportunity on the table. So you've got to adopt the two things together. Let's make sure that we're reaching out to our customers at the right channel, the right time, with the right content in the right context. And that's how we deliver real, true personalization across omnichannel approach.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob.